Share here. Our second meeting of 2022. 2026. Oh my gosh, I've gone back in a time frame. If that tells you anything about my state of mind in the new year, that is a huge indicator. So it is the second meeting in 2026. So welcome everybody. Um, I'm joined today by Seher Noor from City of Detroit, who is my co-leader, and Albert Yahami, who provides invaluable assistance to our committee here from the city of San Jose side. So thanks to both of you. Um, let's see. We have a guest speaker again today. We've had a surge in guest speakers over the last few meetings. So we're very excited to welcome Tom Gilbert from Portis, who's going to talk about the AI registry that they've co-developed with the coalition here, and he's going to do a walkthrough of that. And then after that, we'll have some time for Q&A with him. Then we'll move on to our project updates as usual. We got a few updates that we want to share with the group, and turn over to Sahir for policy and adoption. And then if we have time at the end, we'll get into some of our ongoing action items and team breakouts if there's any time. So I am going to kick this off. Tom is going to start us off today with his presentation about the AI registry. And Tom, feel free to introduce yourself. And if you want me to turn off screen share so you can share, I will do that.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm happy to introduce myself. As was already said, my name is Tom. I am the CEO of Fortis AI, and I do have a few slides which I'm happy to share to kind of tee off the conversation here. Looks like I already have permission. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, I've got a little bit of information here as a kind of overview, and then I'm happy to jump into a live demo of the actual platform, which I would encourage everybody to also try out for themselves. So I'll put a link to that platform in the chat for people to go ahead and try it out, log in, do all that jazz. But first of all, who am I and what do we do? So hortus is the word for garden. There's a lot of garden imagery in what we do. Think like the word horticulture for about that. And basically, what we're working on is trying to create a better ecosystem for AI development, AI deployment, AI implementation, AI purchasing. I can really kind of describe our vision in a nutshell as like enabling AI procurement as a service at scale. That's really the nutshell behind our work with the coalition and what we're working to scale now across the country. So I often describe this, as this slide shows, as a kind of clearinghouse for the adoption of AI tools in the public or private sectors. I also like to informally describe what we do. In some ways, it's kind of like a Yelp for AI tools in the kinds of ratings and listings that we support. You can also think of it kind of like what Consumer Reports does, except the consumer in this case could be cities, municipalities, nonprofits, small and medium-sized businesses that need help deciding which, if any, AI tools are the right fit for their use cases. So there's a lot of metaphors there. I'll keep returning to that vision over the course of my remarks to just kick things off to help people understand, why we think this is important. We're now seeing something on the order of dozens or hundreds of AI tools that are being built and deployed every day. AI startups themselves are being launched many, many per hour. I think it's at least a half dozen per hour now. So you have on the one hand this tremendous hype cycle of what's happening there, and on the other hand, when you ask more difficult questions about the successful and safe implementation of those tools, that can take many months or even years, especially for like enterprise organizations. So you kind of have this unstoppable force of AI hype meeting this immovable object of actual like AI adoption, AI implementation, AI trust, AI understanding from users. And the combination of those, two forces butting heads is this, rapidly growing, even exponentially growing risk of vendor lock-in, where a lot of folks, as I kind of often describe this in a nutshell, you might be afraid to be first to adopt something that you don't really understand. You don't understand the difference between a chatbot and an agent. A lot of this is new to you, but at the same time, you're terrified to be last. You're tremendously, concerned that if you don't jump ahead and get to adopting this sooner, that you'll be left behind. And so, this is the problem, right? Is that you're either afraid or terrified on either side of this. And what we really want is to, alleviate and remove those kinds of negative emotions and hesitations, and instead empower people to feel confident in when and how they do choose to adopt these capabilities and these technologies. So in a nutshell, what are we building? So this is the work that was just described. We've created Hortus Trellis. So again, think of, in a garden, a trellis is like the scaffold on which plants and in a winery, for example, like a trellis is the stuff that you see from all the grapes that are growing to be healthy. It's basically set up as a marketplace, a B2B, B2G, actually also B2C marketplace that helps match AI apps to public needs, broadly construed. That could literally be municipal needs. It could also just mean the needs of users if you're a private entity. It can mean wherever public values and public needs are at stake. The goal is to help identify which, if any, AI capabilities can help alleviate or address those problems. The platform itself, we currently list, I think it's something like 2,200 different AI tools across domains, and I'll show you in a second how that works in terms of how domains are structured. We then rate those tools on our repository of hundreds of use cases that are again organized in part through our work, our close work with the coalition and different committees there. And the goal here really is, not just to be techno solutionist about this or claim to make these decisions for you guys, but to create a platform where the folks building this stuff, the folks who might want to adopt or buy this stuff, and then the folks who might want to help oversee or evaluate or assess these technologies can approach each other on a more equal footing. There's a more level playing field where everyone understands where each other is coming from. They know what questions to ask each other, and at a glance, they're each able to understand what they need to do in order for a win-win-win condition to be established. The right tools are bought by the right people for the right reasons. That's the mission for what Trellis is. So in terms of today, I'm happy to give a live demo, but everything I'll show, in fact, is live, and you can try it out for yourself. And I would encourage folks to follow along actively, in that capacity. So this slide, which I think we'll copy over these in the chat, just so folks can see it once I switch screens to the actual platform. But you can go to that URL, trellis.hortus.ai. If you've not already signed up or logged in, you can enter in your credentials for the first time. Through our partnership with the coalition during open beta, there is complimentary access for both customers and vendors with that promotion code listed in step 3. And then you just follow a few extra steps, creating or listing your organization wherever you're coming from, and then have access to a dashboard from which you can search the marketplace, create projects, specify what use cases you're interested in, and then start organizing a portfolio of tools that you're either interested in adopting or may have already used, or that you want to, add ratings to, add reviews to, or add comments to that will go straight to the vendors. We'll go straight to the folks who uploaded that listing. So I will go ahead and work to copy over these in the chat so you guys still have that available to you, and I will transition to a live demo of the platform itself. And I'll do my best to follow along. If anybody has any questions, please just post them in the chat, or feel free. Yeah, Richard, I'll defer to you on this, but it's fine for people to raise their hands or to speak up and ask questions live.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just unmute or raise your hand to share.
Okay. Can people see this tab?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the live landing page. This is trellis.hortus.ai. We've actually added the ability for folks, if it's easier for your first time, if you've not navigated this before, to just go ahead. You see there's a few different buttons here. Sign up is if you want to have access to the customer dashboard. Vendor, if you're a vendor and want to actually list tools, you can actually go ahead and proceed there. First of all, you can actually just go ahead and check out the marketplace without, logging in to either of those paths. So let's go ahead and show that journey first. This is the way it looks. So it's intended to be it is a completely transparent, impartial interface for listing AI tools that are organized according to these different domains. You can use the search bar here to type in any use case you might be interested in. We also have some preset filters according to, I think, 5 different domains. You see, we have tools for healthcare, tools for education, tools for transportation, for criminal justice, and for administration. If, for example, I choose to filter by administration, see if I can get that working there. What that will do is set up a filter and show only those listings where the vendor has flagged their tool specifically on use cases that are relevant for, I mean, government administration, broadly construed. You can actually see here a few different vendors and listings that joined through the coalition. And so I'll just talk you through some of the columns here. This is the name of the tool. We have category, basically just refers to whether it's a commercial or non-commercial entity. The type refers to basically, what are you looking at here? We've got some filters here. Is it an agent? Is it just a machine learning model? Is it an end-to-end platform that can be used? And so on. And then we also have certifications. And certifications are basically a way to tell at a glance who has looked at this tool or what tests does this tool pass that we can independently and impartially verify. Those include a mix of both technical assessments and also best practices and existing partnerships that have signed off through independent third parties. So for example, we've got types of compliance. If we just look at this one readily, you can see they have HIPAA compliance and SOC 2 compliance. They also have a vendor transparency score that was supplied by a rubric from the Center for Democracy and Technology. You can see several different vendors also have that CDT badge, and you can see what the score is next to it. They are a GovAI Coalition partner. So if it's a vendor that joined through the coalition, you'll see that there. And then also for the top scoring tools, at least for the top 5%, we have a badge for Hortus basically saying, we can verify on our own tests that their listing is in the top 5% of all tools that are equivalent to it in that domain. The domain in this case, again, being administration. If I select any of these tools, for example, this is a vendor that joined, I believe, just last week. You can see at a glance, basically, this is a link to their fact sheet. We assess every listing according to the same tests. So we assess them based on the completeness of the listing. We assess them based off of the commitments to privacy, to security, and to usability of these tools. And if you want to go ahead, you can click details to see it there. You can also click here. This will open up the full fact sheet listing. So you see all these components on the left-hand side. You can just, if you leave all these checked, then you'll just be able to scroll down and see these all at a glance. Basically the vendor specifies an overview, what it is they built, its purpose, the domain it's intended for, information about training data and test data, and so on. It's basically intended to be a robust one-pager. There would be enough information for anybody searching the marketplace and using Trellis to decide and make an informed decision about their next steps. The next steps in this case might mean adding a comment to the listing if you have a question about it. It might mean adding a rating to the listing if you've used this tool before. It might mean getting in touch with the vendor. It might mean adding this tool to one of your projects, which is available from your dashboard. It probably would not mean jumping straight to purchase, but it would mean that you're in a position to know what questions to ask and how to, at a glance, compare what they're offering against other tools. Actually, you do see there's on the side toolbar here, we have an internal tool that we've built that helps recommend a basis for comparing this option against the tools that we grade as the most similar to it on a mix of use cases and quality. So there's a few key features here that we expect and already know are adding value both to vendors who want to do well on these assessments and get more badges and certifications, but then is also I think very critical for this mission of transparency and accountability that the coalition stands for and that its members could benefit from. I don't want to overwhelm people. I think I already showed a lot, and there's a lot more I could show, but I'm happy to pause here if folks have any questions or comments on any of this so far. Or Richard, if you'd also like to jump in with some thoughts.
Well, while people are thinking of questions, this is a great tool. I really love the way you've organized this information. I did have a question about the certifications. Do each of these certification badges have their own set of standard, or is it just like a seal of approval? Like is there anything different behind all the badges and certifications? So,
Yeah, that's a great question, and we actually aim to clarify this, and it's part of our roadmap, actually just in the coming week. So, but I'm
okay.
happy to speak right now about how we determine this. For example, if I again go to administration, this kind of gives the kind of larger umbrella of these different badges. Um, you can see actually we also have CJIS down here as well. So there's several different ones. There's a FedRAMP badge. Basically, what the badges signify is according to the information that we can independently verify, these are the credentials that that vendor has instantiated. That's all they mean. Now, there's roughly like three different buckets of what these badges might signify to that end. One is literally something like compliance. So that's the examples that I showed of like HIPAA, SOC 2, stuff like that, right? Regulatory compliance. Another is what I would call something like industry standards or best practices. So I would put that, roughly speaking, in the that's like what our logo basically refers to, which is across the four dimensions of the tests, right? For completeness, security, privacy, usability, which are the tools that score, within the top 5% out of all the tools we list. The CDT badge is basically, again, a score for vendor transparency. So they have an independent rubric, but it's, again, basically best practices. We are planning to add additional badges. They're not live yet, but we're planning to add additional badges for the most common and widely trusted standards offered by basically consensus-based industry organizations like ISO standards, IEEE. We are also planning to add those as filters. So the idea is that depending on which, if any of those three different buckets I just described might be of interest to you, you'll be able to filter by those. The same way, if you see here, you can filter by if you're looking only for agents or
Yeah.
looking only for something else, you'll be able to do, roughly speaking, I think the plan is we'll have like those three different buckets of like compliance, best practices, industry standards, and you'll be able to filter that way. Does that answer your question?
Great. Yeah, it does, based on sort of what you're looking for there. And just one quick follow-up that occurred to me while you were talking is the absence of a badge mean it's not recommended or maybe it hasn't been reviewed? Is there a difference between those two things? So,
That's also a good question. We do regularly update when the badges are assigned. So it's not there's a little bit of a lag there.
yeah,
So I think I mean basically what we commit to is that we update this like once a week. So on a weekly basis, we check and rerun like for types of compliance, for best practices, and for industry standards. So, you should not go into this thinking that just because there's not a badge there, that means there's something bad about the tool. In fact, on the
yeah,
contrary, we only list tools. So all the tools we list, we only list them because we stand behind them and think they're worth considering for whatever use cases you're searching on. So you should take all these listings seriously. We verify all these tools are real. We verify that they are either publicly accessible or they've been created by a company with established practices around a user license agreement, around a purchasing agreement, and so on. I believe every listing on the marketplace, if you click this, for example, and you go to the full listing, there is a direct link to the website for the product. So you should not think of these things as just kind of like isolated, standalone,
yeah,
unverifiable documents. You can, if you wish, also treat this as a kind of hub for like learning about where tools are and then going off to the company and seeing for yourself, okay, how do they describe the tool? We still
yeah.
think our value here is to add that layer of third party impartiality and assessment because we do run exactly the same checks, exactly the same tests on every single one of these tools. So you don't have to ask the horse. You don't have to get
Yeah.
it from the horse's mouth. You can just come to us and see like, okay, what does Hortus say about what tools this is comparable to? What tool might be best for my needs based off of the use cases I flagged, and so on.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. And I think it's a really great starting point. Sage, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Tom. I mean, this looks like an amazing product that you have right here. And I was just wondering how people find each other in this. Is there like any type of like, is there like a CRM on the back end that is using like any type of AI that's like kind of linking people's problems to solutions and or core values that like where they might match up in terms of like how they kind of I don't know, want to work with like-minded companies? And then do you have people that are inside that are kind of doing the matchmaking, or is this just more organic where people just have to kind of search through it and find the vendors? Like a company might or a government might be looking for certain types of products and they'd have to search it themselves.
Those are great questions, and they tee up the next part of the live demo very nicely. So
Okay, I'll
both
just
of them.
wait then. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no,
Sounds
no. I
good.
mean,
Yeah.
no, it's a great segue. It's better coming from you than coming from me. So everything I just showed is does not require you to log in. So you can just click Explore Marketplace. You can check all this out. You can click stuff. The next step is to actually then try out the dashboard. So if I go back to the main page and click up here, I already have an account, so I'll just log in this way. I will flag. We were able to push just last week. Previously, we only supported Google for login. We are now also able to support Microsoft accounts. So if you have a Microsoft account or an Azure account, you should be able to use it to log in to Trellis and try out the features I'm about to show. I will go ahead and use Gmail because that's how my accounts are linked here. So once that loads, it will take me to my dashboard. And the dashboard is where that kind of these CRM features that we're just asked about are being brought in, right? So beyond just you searching for things, finding listings, and just sort of like that's just sort of where you are. If you go to your dashboard and log in, you were able to create projects. And projects is where a lot of this matching comes into play. It's where a lot of this collaboration comes into play. It's where a lot of this structured and transparent interaction between vendors and potential customers or clients comes into play. Again, everything I'm showing is live. Folks are welcome to actually try out all of this right now for themselves. But I'm happy to show people how it works. If I were to hit, you see, I have lots of projects here already. There's no limit to the number of projects you can. You see, I have 14 projects with 49 listings across all those. So it's meant to be quite accommodating. But I can create a new project. Let's just say I name it something like I often go to this old chestnut, hospital budgeting. Let's just say I'm pretending in this case to be some kind of healthcare administrator, and I want to look at AI tools that might help me with that. So I'm writing in the project overview basically what's going on. I am looking for AI tools that will help to save money and administrative overhead for my hospital. I don't trust agents, but am open to alternatives. You get a little bit of the psychology of the person in this case. Okay. So this is sort of how they sit. Domain, I'm going to flag healthcare for this since that's basically what I'm asking about. But you can see it depends on what you're looking for. So if you want to flag different domains, you can do it here. We support several. I'll stick to healthcare. Then you add use cases. So we've assembled a pretty robust list of use cases for this. We are constantly growing this space, and actually you can see here we have some preset categories here. These would be the most common use cases in healthcare. So those just populate by default. But I can also search. Okay, I can do like budget projection, budget allocation, budget report, budget deviation estimation. Okay, so we have lots of different use cases for budgeting stuff, you know, which is important. And by the way, if you're looking for use cases that you can't find, you can also just add those manually here. You can request new use cases. We monitor those requests daily. And if, basically you just click it, you say, here's what I would name the use case, here's why. And we can also just add that pretty easily on the back end. So we kind of have that list already ready to go, but then we also want users to tell us, what do you care about? Are we missing anything on our end? Anyway, once you name your project, you write a brief description, and you select a few different use cases, you can then create the project. What that will then do, and I have lots of different projects here, but if I scroll down, it looks like I just created this one, hospital budgeting. And then what I can do, and this answers the other question I was asked, is I can actually share this project. So if I share this project, I can type in the email of anybody else who I may want to work with on this. So for example, if I represent a healthcare system in Tallahassee, and I want to understand what other healthcare systems operating, maybe in other parts of Tennessee or even across the country. And if I have their email addresses of those administrators, I can just add them here, and I can pick their role either as a viewer or as a full-on editor, send out that invitation, and then they should be able to access this. They'll see the same project description, they'll see the same use cases that were flagged, and actually, if I start to add listings, they can also be a part of that conversation. So basically, in order to add listings, all you do is this pulls up an interface that's actually based off of the marketplace that I showed earlier. I can again filter by healthcare, and I can just start putting listings into this based off of whichever ones I may be curious about. We have a kind of no harm, no foul attitude towards this. So, we don't really discount, there's no risk in you adding listings to a project. You're not really billed for that in any kind of extra way. It's really just a way for you to go about keeping a portfolio of what you're interested in and then comparing them. So we have a comparison feature that we're building out, which makes it so that based off of the description of the project you made, you can select a few different listings, hit compare, and then we will give a recommendation of which, if any of those listings, might be the best fit for your needs based off of the information that you've provided. So this is giving you just a glimpse into like some of the CRM features that we're rolling out. Another feature, which I can just show up here, there's a notification icon. So what happens with that is if you leave comments on fact sheets, so once you add listings to one of your projects, you can comment on those listings. You can ask questions of vendors about those listings. In fact, I can probably even show, I might have to pull it up and I'd have to dig a little bit, but many listings have like a rather rich repository of comments at this point, questions from people. And whenever a comment or a question is made on one of those listings, a notification will go to the vendor. The vendor has the ability, and actually I can show that rather quickly. If I log in here as a vendor, I have a different account for that. I'll show you on the vendor dashboard how that side of the communication happens. So there's a separate account I have as a vendor. So the vendors have a different type of dashboard where they list tools that they've uploaded in fact sheets for those things. And they also have up here a client engagement tab. So when they click the client engagement tab and then select any of their listings, they will then see how many comments have been made on that listing. So you can see a few different comments that have been made here about one of these. And if the vendor chooses to, they can reply to these comments. So this is sort of intended to be that it's almost a Yelp-like kind of accountability interface where people can leave reviews. The vendor or think of it as the restaurant can reply to those either by acknowledging it and then saying, okay, we're going to update accordingly based on this feedback or whatever. And that can also be another way for people to think about which, if any of these listings is worth considering. So we don't aim to pick winners here by any means. The aim of the game here is impartiality. What we do aim to do is say, like, look, based on our own tests that we run on these listings, as well as the ratings that users have provided, as well as the comments that have been made, you can have the information you need to make an informed decision about whatever your next steps may be.
This is Andrew from Kansas City. I have a question. So right now the search is pretty manual, right? Like, I don't know how many vendors you have in there, But let's say you get to, 100,000 or whatever kind of crazy, unsearchable, physically, lack of time to be unsearchable. What is the thinking behind how you might be able to qualify vendors and their offerings or services that ultimately will be significantly more aligned to, our needs or the challenges that we're trying to solve?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, this is really key to the vision of what we're building and why we're building it. So we've already vetted every tool that is listed on Trellis. In terms of thinking about what's already out there, we often like to think of this as like on one extreme you've got, and I'm just going to use these words that if you haven't heard of these, no worries, I'll just explain what's going on here. In the world of AI, one extreme of how this can work is like the Hugging Face approach. So Hugging Face is a company that has listed, and you can go to their website right now and check it out. I believe something like well over 2 million different machine learning models of many different kinds. Now, the vast majority of those models are, in my view, and in many others' view, not worth taking seriously for a variety of reasons, either because they're not secure or because there's no documentation to support them, or the people who built them either don't actually exist as people, or the companies that created them have gone belly up. So that's sort of one extreme of like the Wild West, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. I think another extreme might be something like the chatbot leaderboard, which is a much more heavily curated list of, really just like 50 and realistically more like just 10 different like frontier applications like ChatGPT or Claude or Microsoft Copilot, maybe, Gemini, those types of applications where there's a constant kind of scurry of users to find like new edge cases and new uses for those different tools. We are aiming very much to chart this, I think, structurally neglected but really critically important middle path, which is, we don't want to just be the biggest arbitrarily. We also don't want to be how to put it, the most ensconced in the rat race of checking to see, like, by any given hour or any given day, which of the top 10 models happens to be jockeying for a marginally better position. We just want to be the best. And what we mean by best is that we list enough tools on there that you feel that are real and that are independently verified, that we run these tests on, that anyone searching Trellis is able to understand that what they're looking at is worth taking seriously and worth comparing against other options. We are constantly growing our list of models. In fact, I can show as an example there. If I do, and I encourage people to filter by these, I think it's helpful, especially if you don't know where to start. So if you just search for some random use case, you may or may not find the thing you're looking for. But if you just start, for example, just by searching healthcare, what this will do is filter by all the top ranked tools in healthcare, right now. And what this will also do, I like this feature is, if folks are familiar with Wirecutter, what Wirecutter does is not just sort of recommend to you, what's the best running gear in Q1 2026. I just got running gear because I'm training for a marathon right now. So I was using Wirecutter for that. They also have this like kind of like mini essay they write about like, here's how running shoes have evolved in the last, couple years. And here's how to think about that. And here's why that matters. And that's really helpful, I think, for how people understand not just like what to buy, but why am I buying that? What should I be thinking about when I'm using it? So we've actually created something similar for these domains where if you filter by healthcare, for example, we'll say in the last quarter, here's how many new listings we added for healthcare. Here's how many new use cases in healthcare. And based off of those listings, here, like cross-referencing the information in them, here's what we think is most important for you to be thinking about if you are thinking about looking at tools in that domain. So the purpose of Trellis is really not to just throw a bunch of stuff at you that's not vetted in any way and expect you to bear the risk or the brunt of that. It's really also, in some ways, I think primarily to help educate people about what's happening in AI now? What does that look like in these different sectors of the economy? And how, once you have that understanding, can that form as a context, as a baseline for you to then when you look at these tools and these ratings, you're able to understand how they stack up. Hopefully that answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, I appreciate that. The other thing that I wanted to say in regards to the example that you gave, all these open source location, Hugging Face is an example. Um, I guess what I'm trying to say is we can't afford to get the low end, right? Like, I mean, the stability and the responsibility that we have to our constituents, I think, at least in my mind, um, needs to be at the median mark and higher. And so I do wonder because so I'm just thinking about like how do we find out about things? We attend webinars like this, or we attend conferences like the GovAI Coalition Summit and others, and we hear about what people have done. And so, if you look at the use case committee where the agency comes in to present about the practical aspects of the work that has been done, I do wonder about the opportunity where, perhaps there's an opportunity for agencies to like, okay, well, we've used this tool or we've used, then the idea there is like, okay, well, so and so, and however many agencies have actually engaged with this thing rather than just like, oh, I just saw it and I heard somebody else use it. And so the verification and this, and what I'm getting at ultimately is we can, in many ways, it becomes a challenge if there's not a way to validate the capabilities without having, the extra, low quality stuff that I was referencing, if that makes sense.
I think it does. There's a lot in that question. So let me, I guess, try and rephrase some of the themes there, and then also try and answer those themes as I understand them. So a lot of what I think underpins your question is this issue of trust. Basically, when it comes to looking or considering AI solutions, how do you know what to trust? Not just in terms of the tools, but in terms of trusting, basically, is this coming out of nothing? Who built it? Who else have they worked with? What pedigree am I dealing with? Do they have a capability statement? What's their past performance? What are some successful scenarios? It's kind of like what I said in my initial remarks, right? That right now, unfortunately, many jurisdictions and many organizations are kind of stuck in this place where they really don't want or can't afford to be a kind of first mover and bite off the risk of using a tool that nobody has ever used before or that is not coming from an established and trusted pedigree. But on the other hand, they're also afraid of being left behind and of being passive. And so they're looking for opportunities, either conferences or webinars or resources to look to see who else is using what and why and what's being recommended. So it's really to address that, issue, which is like, how do you know where to look and why and for what things that we've built this interface? So the purpose of Trellis is to very much supplement and augment and scale all of the things and all of the features that you get from the convenings you just named. So, I was at the Coalition Summit that just happened in November, where we presented Trellis and got a lot of signups at that event for this reason. We met a lot of vendors there as well who also signed up that way. We just submitted, we actually just, I just gave this an equivalent presentation yesterday to the use cases committee. We also went through all these features. We're working with the use case committee to further reinforce and bolster the use cases that we do list for these different domains. So again, the whole purpose here is to give people and supply and nurture an ecosystem in which people can trust in their capacity to find the types of things worth considering and looking for And even if that doesn't immediately lead to a purchase, because it doesn't necessarily, that's not necessarily what the right solution is. It's just to immediately start using or purchasing things you find here. But this is intended to be a kind of, again, CRM messaging platform for jurisdictions to help communicate, collaborate, share projects, take a look at each other's reviews and comments so that we are, as a community, not so reactive to what is being built. That's I think the real issue here is that hundreds of tools are being deployed every day, and maybe one of them, and often even less than one of them, are worth taking seriously. So we kind of see Trellis as playing this filtering role, but also this community collaboration role to help level the playing field between what is being built and the people who actually might have need for some of these tools. But I appreciate the question, and I would like to keep this conversation going. I would encourage you to also reach out to me over email if there, and that goes for everyone on this call for that matter. If you have any further questions or comments on either the vision of what we're building or on particular features that I'm discussing, I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat just so I don't forget and we have access to that.
Great. And we'll also send that around, Tom, in the post-meeting follow-up so that people can reach out to you. Sage, I see your hand raised. Is that from the last time you asked a question, or do you have a new question?
Uh, no, actually, I did raise my hand again.
Great.
But I'm actually so I'm just signed in on Trellis or trellisfortis.ai, and some of my questions are being answered right now. But I'll just kind of ask a quick one: is the types of services that you guys provide or the vendors? It looks like it's both developers, platforms, and like people that do education and consulting. Is there anything else that I'm missing there of other types of services that would be provided by the vendors?
You named a lot of it. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we are aiming to be, as you can see, on the, and first of all, congrats for logging in. I'm glad to know that worked for you. We've tested that thoroughly. So in terms of the actual marketplace, yeah, where there's a toggle button where you can either search for tools, and everything I showed when I was demoing was tool specific, or you can search for services. And services basically means this, especially with respect to the public sector, this very rich ecosystem of government contractors and government consultants who help or have an established pedigree for technology implementation. We are still refining exactly how we want those listings to be presented. The tools are listed in a way that corroborates, all the badges and whatnot that I just showed. I think where possible, the service consultancies are also organized by domain. And so we stand behind those listings, and everything that's listed there, we've independently verified as real and having a pedigree and having a track record. But we also welcome feedback from people on how they would like that to be presented in a way that would be most helpful. Our vision for how this could work is, when you're creating projects and adding listings, that you can also add not just tools, but services to one of your projects. And then when you do that comparison or you run through that stuff, what we could then do is recommend, hey, if you're looking for a chatbot for the use cases you've specified with the kinds of compliance you're concerned about, we'd probably recommend this one. But here's also some contractors or consultants that could also help you think through your options for how to proceed with that adoption and implementation. So we're really trying to create not just a recommendation for specific, products, but really a recommendation for how you can onboard, these capabilities successfully, which is often, as you know, can be a very hands-on and to some extent, I think, bespoke process. We're just trying to help scale the way that matching happens.
I would call it maybe reduce the friction from vendors being able to find the people looking for those solutions.
100%. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, I've tried in this call to speak about this mostly from the customer or the client standpoint, but I think actually vendors might even be even more excited than those folks, because vendors, as you can tell at a glance, vendors can see exactly where they sit. They can see what they're comparable to. They can see what badges they've already attained, and I think also it's also quite clear from the interface what badges they could attain if they change certain practices or behaviors or features of their tools. And in fact, we're seeing a lot of engagement from vendors towards that end, which is great. That's the whole reason we're doing what we're doing is we're designing incentives for vendors, for users, for evaluators, for consultants as well to approach their own services and their own service offering in a more responsible way, in a more transparent way, and we reward them for that by having them listed more prominently when people search for them. So there's no ads. There's nothing about the marketplace that is biased in any way. This is not pay to play by any means, but we do design those incentives very carefully so that there is this, as I said, win-win-win condition being constructed between these stakeholders.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about the
Great.
social rating systems?
Sage, I'm gonna have to cut you off because we want to get to our project updates. But Tom, thank you so much for coming today. It's obvious there's a lot of energy and interest in this. We didn't get through all of the questions in the chat, but I am going to encourage everybody, if you want to continue dialogue with Tom, please reach out to him by email. And Tom, we'd love to have you back sometime after we've had a chance to explore and experience this tool and maybe get into some further conversations. So,
No, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm happy to stay in touch and to speak again to this committee. And I apologize for taking even more time, but I'm very happy to see how much excitement and engagement this is. We're here to serve you. So really do email me if you have any comments or questions or concerns. We constantly aim to be as responsive and iterative as possible at this stage. So thank you very much. And I'll be in touch.
sure. Thanks so much, Tom.
Bye for now, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay, thanks for that, and thanks for everybody's interest and questions there. I do want to save some time at the end here to walk through some project updates. Let me get my screen shared, and the first up is our upskilling group. And I think, Rick, you said you were going to check in today for upskilling.
Yep, sure enough. No, that was great. Thanks for showing us Horton or Hortus. I was very impressed with that. And I talked to him a long time ago when that was in very early formation. Yeah, so upskilling, we'll keep it really quick. There are just basically four projects that are in action right now. Playbooks, we've talked about a bunch and we presented them at the coalition, and we are now at a stage where we're trying to make these the government GovAI um, artifacts that they would be sharing to anybody that's trying to tackle the various problems we have, like rolling out an education plan, getting started, agentic AI. And so Albert gave really good feedback on, in addition to other feedback we've gotten from other people, about very concrete things we could do to change, to just bring them to the level where we're ready to treat them as that kind of artifacts. And we're on a timeline where the first one will be the getting started, and that'll be in late February at the GovAI Coalition wide meeting. And so the idea is to take one for each of February, March, and April and present those. And those have been presented here in this meeting before, so it's not unfamiliar territory for people who've been in this group for a while. The second one is on certification. We've been having discussions with the GovAI Coalition, and by the end of the year, the coalition would like to have like GovAI certification as part of what it is offering, and so we want to help be the hub for that. And so we've formed a coalition subgroup or a certification subgroup already around this. And so we're just going to lean that work more into what the coalition wants to do as a whole. But that was probably the direction we would have taken anyway. But we've already got an outline of what that might look like as a very first draft, and we have the year to take care of that. So that's underway. And that subgroup is this and the other subgroup, the performance metrics subgroup that I mentioned a couple bullets down, is also in action, and we have meetings next week with each of these. And the performance metrics out group is looking at training programs and just saying how are these actually working out, we've identified some outcomes that we are starting with, and really want to make sure that we're hitting the right activities in that group to benefit participating agencies. And then finally, collaborative program. Lon has been working with the Bay Area Community College Consortium. I know that's local to the Bay Area, but they are actually interested in apprenticeship partnership, and she's wanting to put out a large set of occupations and understand what government agencies would be interested in to feed into something that they're going to be submitting in next week, I think. So I'm not sure exactly what form Lon is going to be soliciting that, but it's a heads up to people that if you have thoughts of what kinds of higher depth jobs in AI you would like to see people have skill sets for, that we could measure that map those into that proposal that her group is putting together to try to get funded. Besides that, we just have our next meeting back on a Monday because this was a holiday week, and that'll be February 2nd. And then this is just how you can be part of the group.
Great. Thanks so much, Rick. It's great to see
Sure.
all this coming together and all the planning that's going on. Um, Excited to hear more about that. Um, Next up, we have fires. Jim, I think you're on the call. Do you want to check in briefly about this?
Yeah, I will try to keep it brief. So the first three lessons are live with fire engineering training. Is that link right there I'll throw the link in for the
This
to
is
sign up for it.
this is to register, and this was the message with the QR code. So
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'll throw both of those in the chat also. But
yeah,
talking to fire engineering training, they did a soft launch of the classes in December. So far, they're super happy with the engagement numbers. We've got about a 50% completion rate, which they say is at or above the industry standard. And the average rating for the classes is a 4, and they say 3.5. It's out of 5, not out of 10, so that's good. The
that's
average
great. Yeah,
rating is a is a 4, and they said that's above the industry standard of 3.5. So they're super happy with the way it's going so far. They're going to start doing some publicity around these and getting them out. I have delivered them the material for lesson 4, so they have that. And kind of our tentative plan now is to release every 6 to 8 weeks lessons 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 4 more that are real meat and potatoes. And then the last one is kind of meant to be a look out into the future, which by the time I actually do it, we'll probably be looking back into the past. Who knows? But that's kind of where we're at. We, as a group, we do meet the second Wednesday of every month, 9 a.m. Hawaii time. And we have established a Google Drive for all the members where we can just share anything we want, and keeping that flat file format structure. Google Drive has a great little AI search tool built into it now. So for folks to get in and access stuff is pretty easy for them. And that's kind of it where we're at in a nutshell. And I said I'll drop those links into the chat for everybody who's interested. Still accepting members. If there's any fire service folks who want to get involved, just shoot me an email. Thanks.
great. And Jim, if you can share those engagement numbers, it would be great to share that to the coalition-wide meeting next week.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Like I
Yeah.
said, they're very small right now because it's all been just word of mouth. But at least I
Yeah.
can give you the percentages sound better than the actual numbers. How's that?
Perfect. Yeah. I was just gonna echo what Rich said, Jim. If we get even just those like that satisfaction number, that's awesome, and that it's live, that's awesome. Share out the links with folks. This is to you and to Rick, and also to Dan and anyone else that's in the process of thinking for their own working group. I'm gonna put in the chat. We have our government AI coalition at gmail.com. We have our Gmail. That's where all of our our coalition calendar, that's where we put all of the invites. So if you want to have your working group on our coalition calendar, um, invite our Gmail, and I'll just put that in the chat.
Copy. And I was just trying to drag in the QR code also, Rich, and it won't let me do it because there's some restrictions. So I don't know if you want to throw that into the chat also. Just a real easy way to share it inside of a department for folks to just hit the QR code, and it just takes them right over to the login page. And the classes, just as a reminder, are free.
Okay, great. I think I have that. That's from the Google file, right?
Yeah, I sent you the link from the Google Drive.
Yeah, okay. I'll drop that in the chat here. Great. Thanks, Jim. Great to hear all of that great progress and that this is live on Fire Engineering. It's very exciting where we're at with that project as well. The other thing, Dan is not here today, but he just wanted to let people know about an upcoming webinar that's happening on January 22nd at 11 a.m. He and Katie Kinsey, who serves on the policing working group, she's from the NYU School of Policing, are going to be sitting on a panel co-sponsored by the College of Criminal Justice Future of Public Safety Initiative and the AI and Justice Consortium. So they're going to be talking about how artificial intelligence is being used in policing, how it's being deployed across the police departments, research on how well these tools are actually working and some of the legal and policy issues going on there. And I'll send the registration link out. Let me see, I should have it here. I'll drop it in the chat, but I'll also send it in the post-meeting follow-up. If you want to sign up for this, I think it'll be really interesting. The other thing, finishing out here, is Maddie from Center for Democracy and Technology wanted to also promote this webinar that's happening, this panel session that's happening on February 3rd at 11 a.m. Eastern time this time, not Pacific time as the other one. Maddie's going to be moderating. I'm going to be serving on that panel, so looking forward to that, and basically talking about the most important aspects of trustworthy and responsible use of AI in public service and how they're seeing respective levels of government advance effective AI governance practices. So I will also, if you're interested in that, I will drop that in the chat and also send it in the follow-up message as well. These are pretty sensitive, so maybe I'll send something out right away about the sort of the more immediate things. So let me just, so I'll get that here in the chat. So, and I know there's just a few minutes left, and I wanted to open to Sahar if she had anything to add about policy and adoption at the end of the meeting here.
Hey, Rich. Hi, thank you. Maybe we can cover next time. It's just as always, if you have any questions in implementing or developing a policy, reach out to me. My email is given there. But before that, thank you so much for everyone who gave us updates. I just wanted to specifically touch upon the Google Calendar invites that Albert mentioned. There were a few reach outs to us on not being able to download. I myself had those issues where not everybody's getting the calendar invites. I can't add to their calendars with this working groups having on Gmail calendar. And if you can see that and see if you can add that, that'd be good. So Albert, can we add that to the from the Gmail or the Google Calendar? People can download there to their Gmails, correct? Or also the other one, work emails?
They should be able to direct calendar, and let me give you let me throw the link to the calendar in the chat.
That'd be really helpful because with New Year and with folks starting this back up again, there were a few reach outs for not being able to either access or know when the meetings are and how to join them, or if they have tried to reach out, they were not able to add that to their work calendars or Outlook or something like that. So this will be helpful. Thank you, Albert. I know we are at the top of the hour, so my email is listed here. I can also put it in the chat. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and we'll get you going on policy or anything else that you have questions on the coalition itself or documents and a workspace that you are trying to navigate or learn from.
Great. Thank you so much, Sahar. As always, I encourage people to reach out and utilize Sahar as a resource in getting started with AI implementation and policy. So And Quinn, also, I saw you put it in the chat, and I looked and I didn't think I saw anybody from CDT on the call. So if there's anything you wanted to add beyond what I said about the upcoming webinar, feel free.
Just that it's open to anyone who's interested in joining. So please feel free to circulate that link widely. We'd love to have your colleagues from your departments or other, folks that you work with in this field. So yeah, please, it's public, it's on our website, so it can go to anyone you think might be interested.
Great. Thanks so much, and really appreciate you and Maddie pulling that together. So. Okay, we are a minute over. Thank you so much for everybody's time and attention and interest today. Really excited to see all the project work that's going on, and really good engagement with our guest speaker today. So our next meeting will be at the first week of February. So looking forward to seeing everybody then. And I'll send out the post-meeting follow-up as always. So hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.